Hello everybody and welcome back to Typical City. Anti-football wins again, and I suppose that really brings into the limelight that the treble that we won was such a historic and unbelievable achievement because of this anti-football that teams are opting to play against Manchester City nowadays, defending for their lives and hitting us on the break. Stopping Manchester City is the goal. Not scoring against Manchester City, that's not the forefront. It's hopeful, maybe we can get a goal. And United, fair play, they got two yesterday. Gift-wrapped, in all truth, absolutely gift-wrapped. But still, that was their hope, hanging on in there. That's what these big football clubs are doing nowadays. We've been knocked out by Real Madrid, playing the exact same way. Low block from the mighty Real Madrid, low block on the edge of the area, trying to prevent Manchester City from playing their football. Rather than thinking about what they can do, it's more about stopping Manchester City. Same again yesterday, Manchester United stopping Manchester City. How can we stop them? Let's stop the way they play with a low block. And I mean, Erik Ten-Hag is getting a lot of credit coming out of nowhere from certain United fans that are now, they're left in a bit of a problem now, United fans. But Erik Ten-Hag getting credit for these tactics that we've seen plenty of teams do all season. And you need to ride your luck. You need gifts. You need a little bit of luck and a little bit of the opposition not being quite at it. And Manchester City were nowhere near at it yesterday. We were below our usual standards. But that shows to me how brilliant that treble was. The achievement that we achieved, and that's cup football. That's why the treble is so special. What we won is so special because we went up against so many teams that tried to present this low block, a defensive mindset, preventing Manchester City from playing their football, yet we still went and won the FA Cup, the Champions League and the Premier League all in one season. This season, we found out that the knock football, we're not found out, it's nothing new here in truth. I feel like this is, it seems like some people are surprised by this, and I think we've just gotten into the formality of Manchester City winning everything, and it's a harsh reality for Manchester City fans, which some of them were a little bit overly confident going into the game yesterday. I felt very realistic that this is a cup game. Anything can happen. In one-off games, anything can happen. But you look at the league form, where Manchester City are currently the Premier League champions, as it stands, 4 in a row, lest we forget. Absolutely sensational stuff from this Manchester City side. I mean, United, they've never done, no one's ever done that, not just United. They got 3 in a row. That's all they could achieve. We've got 4 in a row, of course, which has never been done. And this is why I think this Premier League campaign has been absolutely sensational and proof that I believe that the Premier League is the hardest trophy to win because knockout football contains a huge element of luck. A huge element of luck in one-off games that you can just present a low block like this, anti-football, that's not about playing football, it's about stopping football. And you can have success. Arsenal found out the hard way. They tried to play cup football at the Etihad in the Premier League. It worked. They got the point. They thought it was a good point at the time, but it was a terrible point. You look back at the Premier League campaign and they're currently sitting in second. You know, I don't know where United are. If you go on Google, you have to click on more to open the table further. You type in Premier League table on Google. You can normally see the 5 or 6 top clubs. You need to click on more to expand the table to find Manchester United. And they are 31 points below Manchester City, which is, again, a real indication of how fantastic we are. And it's a moment for United to enjoy. You have to take it on the chin. You have to give the dog a bone. Do you know what I mean? They've been living off scraps lately. Manchester City's scraps are leftovers. That's what they've been living off, living in the shadows. And I mean, they get giddy. Let the dog bark for a little while. Let them have a little moment in the sunshine. And then next season, we'll yank that leash on them. And we'll rein them back in, and they'll be back in the dog kennels calling for Erik Ten-Hag out, and we can start that in the Community Shield, so we can get our revenge immediately before the season's even properly got underway, or the curtain raiser it's so commonly known as. But it is a bitter pill to swallow for City fans to lose the FA Cup. But we can't forget that we've got 4 Premier League titles in a row. Absolutely ridiculous, ridiculous. Meanwhile, we have to absorb this, and I feel like the sadistic part of me, as a City fan, I feel like there's a lot of, especially I know I'm talking to the old school generation of City fans here. There's a sadistic side to us that looks at United, and we sort of drink in the pain a little bit, and especially now with the football club that we are now we can drink that pain and take it in, absorb it, use it as fuel. And how many times has we as fans and the club themselves have used these moments as fuel to go again and go again stronger and harder, to the point where revenge just it gets sweeter and sweeter and sweeter every time. And we can get that straight away in the Community Shield. We've got a summer now to deal with transfers. What Manchester City going to do in the transfer market? We can build again. There's definitely a little mini rebuilding project on the horizon. We've gone through a little bit, one in the middle of the park. Now we've got one potentially down the right-hand side of our Manchester City starting 11 with Bernardo Silva and Kyle Walker potentially. So there is a little mini rebuilding project for City to use now. But it's painful. You take it. You sort of enjoy it, and you remember the good days, and you know there's more to come. That's the way to look at this, is taking it on the chin and knowing full well that we'll get the last laugh. We always do nowadays, don't we? Do you know what I mean? It's United. They've become a laughing stock. And what's really interesting now from a United perspective is, what are they going to do? Because they've kind of like made a rod for their own back here with the lack of support shown from Ineos. That tells the whole story of what they think of Erik Ten-Hag. They don't want him. They knew that, well, they thought that the FA Cup was going to be a loss, and there it is. There's our little window of opportunity to sack the manager, and we can go with our manager now. Now United are in turmoil. They've got a polarising decision to make now, Ineos. Do you keep Erik Ten-Hag with, I'd say probably around half of the fan base don't want him, and then you've got the other half of the fan base that do want him? And either way, you lose now, because you're going to create this toxic environment. So the Ineos campaign has got off to a wonderful start. It has, in terms of silverware, in terms of winning an FA Cup. Not quite a Premier League, though, is it? But still, they've got off to a silverware winning season, and you have to give them that. But now it's like, how do you build on that? You're going to stick with Erik Ten-Hag? Because I'm happier if they stick with Erik Ten-Hag. And blowing this one-off game out of proportion, the guy presented a low block. It wasn't genius tactics from Erik Ten-Hag. It was a very simple low block with a two false nines effectively, then three behind. It was almost like a Christmas tree formation from United that you could see building on that team. And it was just a case of you break us down, anti-football, you know. And then the next week, you can't keep doing that though as a football club. This is why the philosophy clubs, the clubs that have one goal, one philosophy, one ideology, they're the clubs that succeed. Because they have one goal and they stick to their guns. They don't have a plan B and a plan C. Plan B is enforcing plan A. Making sure plan A is polished and refined to perfection. You don't have a plan C. None of this like, right, who are we playing this week? We're playing the bottom half of the team in the Premier League. Right, we'll give it a go then. We'll attack them. Who are we playing next week? Oh, it's a top six side. Right, we'll go back to the low block and hopefully we'll hit them on the break. That chopping and changing of football tactics is the reason why Manchester United are currently sat in 8th and 31 points behind the Premier League champions. That's our Manchester City. Continue with that. I'm all for that. I continue for that, because United will continue to be in the shadows of Manchester City. But, yeah, you have to give the dog a bone. FA Cup winners, fair play. 2-1 Manchester United. Let's have a look at the match stats. Again, domination from City, but not enough. I think we were poor yesterday, really poor throughout the whole team, as much as I'm deflecting from them. And I also want to mention Pep Guardiola as well. This is why he's the man. Do you know what I mean? Have you heard Erik Ten-Hag come out and say anything like this? You know what I mean? Throughout the whole campaign of the season. 19 games United have lost this season, conceding 84 goals. Yet he's still in a job. The worst Premier League campaign ever. One of their worst finishes in the top flight since the 70s. One of the most goals they've conceded the most shots in the Premier League. Keep him in a job, mate. Keep him in a job. Well done for winning the FA Cup, but keep him in a job. The point is, though, that we were poor. We still were able to control the game. We were still able to get plenty of shots, although they were forced outside of the box, which is frustrating. As you can see, 74% possession. 19 shots, but only 4 on target. We outdid them in XG. That 1.3 XG came in the first half. There was 0 XG in the second half from United. So we did turn things round in the second half, but the damage had already been done. Too late. You can't make those mistakes, and that's why I love Pep Guardiola for coming out and saying what he said. My fault. Sorry, everybody. I got it wrong. And I mean, that's so commendable, and that's why he's our boss. That's why he's my man. This is why he's our manager, and this is why we love him, because he's taken all the blame on his shoulders, Partly correctly so, but partial. Because I feel like as much as his tactics were wrong, team selection was overly zealous, too aggressive. I still believe that there are players out there that made mistakes that had Pep Guardiola has no control over that. So I don't feel like Pep Guardiola can take the whole blame. He's doing that because he's a fucking genius, and I love the guy. And he's taking everything on the chin for the sake of his players, deflecting away from his players. And I understand that. That's great. I love that from Pep. But the facts are there's 2 or 3 players in particular on that pitch yesterday that were absolutely appalling, to be honest. Like, atrocious. Big mistakes. But still, again, second half, we turned it round and we played a little bit better. There's a little bit of a silver lining there that you can see with the 2.13 XG. 1 big chance for City, 2 for United. They scored them both. We missed our big chance. 664 passes to their 248. Again, control. But the big stat at the top, 2-1, that's all that matters. Player ratings now. Let's have a look at Stefan Ortega, because I'm going to jump straight to that error led to goal. Now, this statistically is incorrect. This is my stat. I've transferred a stat going off the statistical websites that are all out there. You can all go and examine them all yourself and see that Josko Gvardiol has been merited, if you can call it merited, with the error that led to the goal. If you know anything about football, speak to any goalkeeping coach, any defensive coach. In that situation, Ortega is 100% to blame. The only minuscule little blame that can be laid on Josko Gvardiol is maybe shouting at Ortega, "I've got this." But at this level of football, you shouldn't need to shout that. That's Sunday League stuff, mate. That's where you need to speak more at that level, because you've got so many inexperienced players around you. Communication is key. The lower you go down in the Premier League. It should be unspoken agreements that the goalkeeper should be staying in a position just in case that ball is nodded back. Gvardiol was dealing with it. He leant on Garnacho. Garnacho, the problem had gone. Brushed aside, leant on him, dealt with. Josko's nodding it down. He's not even got a clue what... He's presuming, incorrectly in this case, but normally the goalkeeper would be 5 or 6 yards off his line waiting to collect any sort of nod back that he can get involved with. There was no reason to go back and to get involved as much as Ortega did. Nothing would have been achieved. Too many cooks spoil the broth. That's what they will. That's the saying, isn't it? He did that. He got involved. He should never have got involved. It reminded me of the Nastasic and Joe Hart coming together at Stamford Bridge against Chelsea years ago. I remember Joe Hart getting defended again because he's English and he's the golden boy of Manchester City. Nastasic took all the blame for that, and it couldn't have been further from the truth. Joe Hart made the mistake. Coming out of your goal as a goalkeeper like that, you either win it or you stay on your line. You either come out, you take everybody out and get a yellow card, or you stay in your position and you wait for the knockback. It's really, really simple stuff. And he's done it wrong. He's got it wrong. Now, Ortega's won us the league, so let's not get on his back. Let's not nail him. You know, he deserves criticism for that mistake. It was a big, costly error. But the man won us the league. That save against Son single-handedly won us the league. So well done, Stefan Ortega, for a fantastic season, a very involved season that has played a key role in Manchester City winning the league. So I'm still proud of him. I'd love him to sign a new contract. He'll have learnt his lesson about that situation. Stay on your line, but well, not on your line, but don't come out quite as far. But 3 saves to his name as well isn't bad. 1 successful run out. That was definitely not the one I'm talking about. But I've got to give him a 5. It's too big an error, unfortunately. Walker, another error that led to a shot, but that's not the error that I'm most bothered about. I'm more bothered about the second goal. And it's not the first time that we've looked at Kyle Walker as when we're talking about tracking back. Because if you go back to the replay of the goal, Mainoo's drifting into that penalty area, and the whole back 4 is ambling back. But they're all sort of in a line, but Kyle Walker is 5-10 yards behind that line. And at that point, Kyle Walker's got to recognise the danger. He's got to see Mainoo is sprint. And as soon as he recognises it, he does. Because he suddenly starts to sprint. But it's too late. Once that ball's on his way to Bruno Fernandes, he sees that Bruno's got his eyes over there. He's going to pass it first time across the edge of the area over to Mainoo for a pretty simple finish for Mainoo. That finish would not have been simple if he had Kyle Walker just leaning on him or something. Some sort of connection without fouling him, but some sort of connection with Mainoo would have put him off. He wouldn't have had a clean open shot to open his body and just tap it into the empty net like that. He wouldn't have that opportunity if Kyle Walker had sprinted back. Now, Kyle Walker did some good things in this game, but that was an error that was inexcusable for me. Just an effort. It's a concentration, effort, not recognising the danger quick enough. It's too poor, that was poor from Kyle Walker. Now, in the first 10 seconds, he used his speed against Marcus Rashford. 2 or 3 times after that, he pocketed Marcus Rashford. But the one moment we really needed Kyle Walker was this moment, and it was a killer blow. Very costly to Manchester City. I thought there were times where when I talked about pocketing Marcus Rashford, physically he did. Once he'd won the ball, he'd then give it away. He'd done the hard work, Kyle Walker. He's got these attributes that defenders would take your right arm for. They would give their right arm to have the attributes that Kyle Walker has. He's got a gift, the speed gift, and he uses it to its effectiveness. And once he's done his job, he doesn't then do the simple things well enough for me. And it's a shame because it's been really costly. I still think we should have him here next year. I don't think he should be captain next year. I do think he should become a bit part player. And I think we should be looking at a bit more of a youth player, a bit more of a combination of players that can, more like a Gvardiol style player, defensively minded, but it got the full package. For me, Kyle Walker going forward. But again, 2 shots, by the way, that were fizzed in. Really unlucky not to get a goal. Produced 2 good saves from Onana, which is more than I can say for the John Stones effort and the Manuel Akanji effort that was in the second half when they both ballooned 1 over the bar each. But that mistake was too big from Kyle Walker. Dribbled past twice as well. Not good enough for me. Poor performance. 5 out of 10. Josko, again, that error that led to a goal has gone to his name, and I think that's a disgrace and a complete, a shining example of what is wrong with the statistical side of football in terms of it tells a story that's not always true. Error that led to a goal. It's not his error. He did everything right in that situation. It's absolutely not his error, but because it came off his head, which led to Garnacho tapping it in, it's gone down as you don't know what you're talking about if you think Josko's made the mistake in there. And you know me, if you've listened to me throughout this season, I've been nailing Josko Gvardiol this season. I've been nailing him, especially in the first half of the season. I felt like he didn't get off to a great start. He's absolutely stepped up to the plate in the second half of this season, and I felt like he didn't have too bad a game yesterday either. People are going to highlight that error, not for me. 5 key passes, really good. Probably the only player with any sort of attacking involvement. Really good in the attacking sense from Josko. Dribbled past once though. That's why he's getting a 6 for me, because I still think he didn't have that good a game. But he certainly shouldn't be held out and hung to dry for that mistake. Not in my book anyway. 6 out of 10. Manuel Akanji came on in the second half. 47 touches, 93% passing accuracy. I felt like he steadied the ship. I'm going to criticise him for that one shot over the bar. That was in a moment where I think it was about 5-6 minutes to go, and he's just got a pass outright or just a little simple ball, keep that ball moving. And it showed how much we weren't at the races yesterday. When do you see City panic in those situations? How many players panicked yesterday and think, fuck this, I'm having a shot. Having a shot from 30 yards. Every now and again, yeah, but our defenders were all shooting because they'd run out of ideas. They'd run out of ideas and they were panicking at the lack of creativity, and they just thought, right, fuck it, I'll have a shot. And that is not the way we play. No way. So I was very critical of Manuel Akanji from that point of view. But his overall contribution to the game, the way he steadied the ship was good enough for me. So I've given him a 6 out of 10. Nathan Ake, I don't know why he started and then why he came off. For me, I would have taken off John Stones and brought on Manuel Akanji, not Ake. That's a mistake from Pep for me, because he's got nothing to speak about to his name. He didn't do anything wrong, Nathan Ake. He's the solid centre-back for me, and I felt like if Diaz isn't playing, Ake's playing. Fine, I'm cool with that. But then to take Ake off and bring Akanji on alongside John Stones, I didn't understand that one. I felt like John Stones should have been the one who came off. Felt like a little bit of sentiment there, in truth, from Pep Guardiola. But 6 out of 10 for Nathan Ake. 45 minutes of football, nothing to really speak about. Didn't do anything wrong, didn't do anything great. 6 out of 10. John Stones, he's got really good numbers, and I think the majority of those numbers have definitely helped him in his score. He didn't have a good game, but those numbers are defensive numbers that do tell a story, that he was defensively switched on at times. He was dealing with the ball really well. Any sort of threats that came his way, he was pretty solid. You can see with the 3 block shots as well. That's really good. 2 clearances, good. An interception, a tackle. A well-rounded defensive performance from John Stones. But on the ball, I felt like he was too cautious at times. There were times where that ball was being fired into his feet, and he was just laying it off first time. It was like, where's the bravery from John Stones? We've seen him take that ball on the half, turn and face the defence that you're going up against. They were firing passes into him, and he's like, I don't want it. Passing it back. I don't want it. And it was like, even there was a time when Rodri passed it straight into him, and he could have turned and laid in Bernardo Silva down the right-hand side, but he gave it straight back to Rodri. There was no bravery from John Stones in an attacking sense. And if you're playing in midfield, in a Manchester City midfield, all good and well having these defensive numbers, and well done for getting those defensive numbers, but you've got to have bravery if you're playing in Manchester City's midfield. You have to. And he didn't show any of that yesterday. Too tentative, too nervous, which is why he's got a 6.5. Shame. Rodri, I thought he was way below his usual standards, in truth. It was frustrating. I felt like it was going on around him. I felt like it was disrupted by the fact that Kovacic didn't have a great game in midfield alongside him. And I also felt like his distribution wasn't quite at it. 88% for Rodri is reasonably low. It's just high by most players' standards, but low for Rodri. But still, he's got 2 key passes, 3 tackles. He was dribbled past twice, though. So if we're going to nail Kyle Walker, we're going to nail Rodri, I'm afraid, because he did seem a little bit easily bypassed at times, isolated. Whether that's the tactics to blame or Rodri himself or his partner in midfield to be blamed for Kovacic. I don't think Kovacic did anything wrong. I don't think Rodri did anything glaringly wrong. But one thing I wanted to highlight was he had a shot from about 20 yards inside the City half, trying to do a Nana with a 90-yard punt. What's that? What's gone on? What's happening? We've got John Stones ballooning one over the bar, Akanji ballooning one over the bar, Rodri trying his luck from 90 fucking yards. What went on yesterday? There was something not quite right with the lads yesterday, and it's one of the bad days at the office that is gonna. It stings, and we have to take it on the chin. And Rodri's absolutely a part of that, unfortunately. But taking a shot from within your own half is daft. The look that Pep Guardiola gave him as well was just like, mate, I'm going to be speaking to you later. Do you know what I mean? 6 out of 10 for Rodri. And the reason why, if you're wondering, how's John Stones got a 6.5 and Rodri's got a 6? The defensive numbers, for me. That's what saves John Stones in that, because Rodri, you expect more from Rodri, which it makes him a victim of his own success. I understand that, but still, it wasn't quite there for Rodri. Same again for Kovacic. Only 45 minutes played, though. And I actually felt like there was a couple of... He saved Ortega once. Do you know, Ortega played this pass 5 yards in front of him to Kovacic, with McTominay and Bruno Fernandes hounding Kovacic. And how Kovacic controlled that ball and passed it to Gvardiol to get us out of danger. Why Ortega's passing Kovacic that ball in that situation, being marked by 2 United players. Brilliant from Kovacic to come out of that situation, not giving a goal away, not even giving the ball away. Do you know what I mean? So well played, Kovacic. But outside of that moment, he was pretty anonymous. Very little to speak about. The game sort of drifted past him in that first half, and I don't think he was brought off as a punishment. I feel like he was brought off as a tactical change that worked because of the substitution that came on for him, which was Jeremy Doku. But still, 6 out of 10 for Kovacic. Foden, it wasn't his day, was it? He just felt like everything sort of went wrong for Phil Foden yesterday. One moment that could have really changed his score and changed the whole game was sliding in Julian Alvarez with that big chance that he created. You can see that there. Really good from that moment from Phil Foden for that particular moment. Outside of that, his touch wasn't quite right. There was a Doku pass into the penalty area that we saw a duplicate move like that in the West Ham game that won us the league. Doku sprays it across the edge of the area. Phil Foden sweeps it into that bottom corner. We saw exactly the same thing happen with Jeremy Doku doing that same pass into the penalty area. This time, Phil Foden completely misses it. So it wasn't his day. He didn't have the greatest game. Could have got himself an assist. Should have gotten himself an assist if Julian Alvarez decides to put that in the back of the net, which he should have done. At least hit the target, mate. Yeah, 2 key passes isn't bad at all. He won 3 out of 4 ground duels. Not bad from Phil Foden, but you expect more. A shame. 6.5. De Bruyne, I'm giving him a 5, mate, because I thought he was an absolute stinker. So I gave Walker gets a 5, Ortega gets a 5, but they're getting 5s for individual moments. 5-second decisions, you know what I mean? Millisecond decisions in some cases. Little moments like that they've been punished for. I'm punishing Kevin De Bruyne and giving him a 5 for the full 56 minutes. That's the punishment I'm giving him, because that 5 is a reflection of the whole game that he played and the reason he came off. He was not brought off tactically. He was brought off because he was nowhere near good enough. Everything he did was way below standard. 71% passing accuracy. That's the norm for Kevin De Bruyne, because he is a risk taker. He gives the ball away by trying such audacious passes. But when they don't come off and they look as ugly as they did yesterday, it's not a pleasant watch when the game goes wrong for Kevin De Bruyne, because he tries so many difficult things, and when it goes wrong badly for De Bruyne. But when it goes right, wow, we know what a player he is. But for me, the last 5 or 6 games, he's been nowhere near at it. Nowhere near at it. And I think we can count ourselves a little bit fortunate that other players like Phil Foden in the Premier League stepped up to the plate. You know, Jeremy Doku in the final 3 or 4 games of the season, winning a penalty against Spurs, fantastic against West Ham, getting himself an assist for that Phil Foden goal as well. Other players, Gvardiol, have stepped up and filled the void of some players' inability to affect football matches. And I feel like Kevin De Bruyne, I mean, I know there's people out there, how dare you say a bad word about Kevin De Bruyne? There's no bias on this channel. There's no favouritism. The only favouritism you're going to see is Manchester City, the club. No player gets favouritism on this channel. So I'm sorry, Kevin De Bruyne, mate, nowhere near good enough. 5 out of 10. Jeremy Doku, 8 out of 10. Manchester City's man of the match. You've got to give him man of the match if you're looking at Manchester City players alone. For the impact that he had in that second half, he single-handedly nearly dragged us back into that game with an opportunity to go to extra time. Brilliant from Jeremy Doku. Everything that good came through him. Everything. I mean, the tenacity, the strength that he showed. 11 ground duels, he won 7 of them. Got a tackle to his name. He scored the goal. 5 dribble attempts, he completed 3 of them. His passing accuracy was decent. Really pleased with Jeremy Doku, and I feel like this is just the little glimpse. We're peeking through the curtain at the future of Jeremy Doku. I feel like there's more to come. I feel like this is just the beginning, and I cannot wait to see what qualities and the ceiling, what is the ceiling of Jeremy Doku, in particular, factoring in the tutelage of Pep Guardiola. How far can he go? Who knows? He could be looking at a Ballon d'Or potentially. If he can just start refining that end product. I mean, he got himself a goal yesterday. Hanana should have saved it in truth, but still, got himself a goal. Well done, Jeremy Doku. I can't wait to see the rest of your career, mate. And hopefully it's at in a Manchester City shirt. And let's see what he can do next season. Bernardo Silva, 5.5 for me. Another poor performance from another experienced player, Kevin De Bruyne. Is one of them. Rodri, not good enough. Experience. Bernardo Silva, experience, not good enough. Strange. A very strange Manchester City performance. Very quiet, very ineffective. A lot of the ball did go towards that right-hand side of the pitch, and Diogo Dalot, he dealt with him pretty much every time. Ground duels, 4. He won none of them. Now, he's not on the pitch to win ground duels, but at least win one of them, mate. Like, do you know what I mean? It wasn't good enough from Bernardo Silva. Crosses into the box, nowhere near good enough. Disappointing. Really disappointing from Bernardo Silva again. But I feel like he has had a better season. And in the Premier League, I felt like he was really good. This was a one-off for Bernardo Silva. Long-term, I'm more concerned about Kevin De Bruyne because I feel like there's been a pattern emerging with Kevin De Bruyne, whereas this is a one-off, isolated game for Bernardo Silva for me. Still, though, not good enough. It's a shame. Gutted. 5.5. Alvarez, gutted. Again, came onto the pitch. Ran about, worked hard, give him credit for that. Got to finish that chance. You've got to get it on target at least. He gave the ball away, nearly gave United an opportunity to make it 3. Got himself a yellow card to prevent that from happening. That big chance, though, is going to haunt him for quite some time because he had a real opportunity, well fed by Phil Foden, takes it onto his left foot. And it went quite a distance past the post. We're talking 2 or 3 yards past the post. So it wasn't like, oh, so close. You can see what he was trying to do, but you've just got to hit the target there. You have to, Julian. And 73% passing accuracy. Again, too loose with the ball for my liking. Shame. I'm gutted. Every single player I've said shame. At the end, shame. Shame. But no, it was pretty disappointing, wasn't it? 5.5 for Alvarez. Finally, Erling Haaland, another 5.5. Rattled the crossbar. Could be talking about, again, a different game. Fine margins and all that. Hits the crossbar. Very unlucky to not get his goal. Outside of that moment, there was a couple of hold-up play that he did. It was like a link-up play. It was just like pretty anonymous, in truth. Another game that drifts past Erling Haaland, unfortunately. But he is that guy, you know full well. If he scores, we talk about him positively. If he doesn't score, we talk about him negatively. And I mean, even if we win the game nowadays, it seems that it's black or white with Erling Haaland, isn't it? It's night and day. Everything is so polarizing. He's either brilliant, he's scored a goal, or he's shit, and we should sell him. There is no middle ground allowed for Erling Haaland, and I totally disagree with that. I feel like his hold-up play is a big factor in the way we play. It wasn't brilliant yesterday, but I don't feel like we should be writing this guy off again. I mean, how many times do City fans need to learn? Because I saw it in the chat yesterday. I saw a lot of people writing him off, saying, Haaland's shit, get rid of him again. And I mean, I even saw one complete bellend say, get Pep out. It's frightening, isn't it? It's frightening. You know, since I started this YouTube game, I must admit, I've been introduced to some of the strangest opinions I've ever known. Social media seems to bring out the fuckwits, doesn't it? It really does. You see some absolute tools on in the comment sections at times. A very small minority of you. But to be honest, it's astounding to think that people want to sell Erling Haaland because he doesn't score in one game. And yet he's got 30+ goals again. Again, Premier League Golden Boot winner, back-to-back Golden Boot winner, Premier League 4 in a row winner, treble winner. Without him, we wouldn't have won the treble. Without him, we wouldn't have won the Premier League. You don't write him off. Yeah, he had a shit game yesterday. I think he would say that himself. He would say it was shit. Yeah, it was shit. Everyone was shit. They were all poor, except Doku. So it's just tough. We have to take it. You know, you don't bin him, get rid of him. Do you know what I mean? Like, grow up, man. Jesus Christ. Anyway, Blues. A lot to celebrate this season after that sour little note there. There's a lot to celebrate. We won the Premier League. We are the Premier League champions. We get to face United in Wembley in the Community Shield again. We'll fucking tonk them. We'll take him to the cleaners. We'll enact the revenge that we're so badly craving right now. We've got a transfer window in the summer to go through now with players coming and going, no doubt. The goings are going to be really interesting as well. Who stays at the club, who leaves the club. Got all that to come. Thanks very much for joining me in this video. I will be doing a season review at some point. Get your player ratings in the below. Get your thoughts in as to the damage that was done yesterday for this FA Cup final defeat. Let me know your thoughts. Like and subscribe to Typical City, and I'll see you in the next one. This is Typical City now, holding up silver.